The topic of health and wellness is much more vast than is initially considered. Many who are wishing to create a more healthy experience generally think of the topic of health to apply to their physical corporeal health, meaning their body's health. Before we can delve into the topic of health and well-being, it is first important to understand the relationship between the consciousness and the body, for they are one. And there is still a perception of a separateness between the what is thought of the spirit form of self, the inner self, and the body. If one can understand then there is no separation between the consciousness itself and the physical form, then it is an easier leap to understand that the thoughts and beliefs that dominate in your neuronal structure then are going to demonstrate themselves within your physical form. Also, there is a misconception that one has to have a belief that directly opposes the idea of health and well-being. And this is simply not true. Also, there is the consideration of total health, which is mental, physical, and spiritual. The mind, body, spirit, totality of your existence in this time-space dimension must be considered then when viewing the scope of the topic of health and well-being. An example of this may be if you believe that foreign countries or enemies or allies are dangerous or can be dangerous. The idea of that belief implies that you are vulnerable then to outside influences that can impact the state of being, the natural state of being that you enjoy. For this is not true. Your thoughts, which arise from your beliefs, create your reality, period. In that, you dominate the control of the reality that you experience. Many have learned to believe throughout the course of their lives that there is an impact on your condition based on the perception of other people's realities that they are experiencing. Many people received their limiting beliefs regarding health and wellness from their family members, from the conversations that they interacted within, and also the conversations that they heard other members of their family having. Many believe that genetic difficulties are inherited, and this simply is not true and flies in the face of the understanding that no other being can assert itself into your experience without your permission, meaning without a belief system in place that would allow it. And so when I suggest that you dominate the control of the experiences that you have, then you can understand then that the influences of outside events or people are not and do not impact your natural state of well-being. I've explained before that your body well knows and understands how to maintain a natural state of well-being without your conscious direction, and that it is only the intrusion of distorted beliefs, distorted thoughts that were learned from others that can intrude on the body's ability to maintain its natural state of well-being. Another example is if you desire to experience a higher level of spiritual abilities in this physical existence, but you are concerned or worried or afraid of how others outside of you may perceive this new ability, then you can actually impede the ability from coming forth. This is important to know for those who want to become healers, healers of their own physical forms, and healers that want to provide assistance to others regarding their health and well-being. And so it is important to examine the beliefs that are housed within your current consciousness, for then you're going to be able to have more clarity in understanding that it is natural then for these limiting beliefs to impact and reveal themselves as physical symptoms or illnesses within your own corporeal form. That being said, again, there are more components to health and well-being than just the physical aspect to consider. There is the mental, physical, and spiritual aspects of your being to consider. And so in relationship to understanding how other thoughts or other circumstances, other perspectives that you may have can intrude on your body's ability to maintain its natural state of well-being, we will use the example of relationships. If you are currently experiencing an unhealthy relationship or frustrations within the context of that relationship, or if you are experiencing negative aspects that are unwanted in that relationship, those conditions and your thoughts about them can also contribute to the rise of physical symptoms or illnesses within your own physical form. And you would generally not think that one would be linked to the other. But often the belief systems, the limiting beliefs that directly impact your physical form are not thoughts that are directly about your natural state of well-being. They can be limiting thoughts about other issues, about other topics. And those errors in your thinking, meaning the existence of limiting or false beliefs within your neuronal structure, are going to physically manifest as a symptom or an illness. Now, that being said, you can, through the use of this information, generate thoughts and beliefs that aid in the exuberance that you naturally have for your life in this body. Your sense of worthiness can directly impact the health and well-being of your body, not only of your body, your mental condition and your spiritual condition as well. So you see, a limiting belief does not necessarily only impact your physical condition. It actually impacts your mental health and your spiritual health as well, which is why it is important to examine the framework of beliefs that are currently within your conscious level of development now. Altering those beliefs can also alter the physical ailments, symptoms that are being demonstrated in your physical form right now can be reversed quite naturally. So when I say that you dominate the control of your reality, it should be viewed upon as a very positive thing. For you only have to do some alterations to your mental thoughts, the inner thoughts that you have, and your physical reality will alter itself accordingly as well. That being said, and since there are a plethora of thoughts and beliefs that you may believe are not related to health and well-being, it becomes much more fundamentally important then to examine not only the limiting belief that you have identified, but if it is seemingly not related to the topic of physical health and well-being, you can then begin to do a further level of examination and understand the core belief that is behind that. For instance, if you believe that foreign governments, allies, and enemies can pose danger to you, then understand that there is some level of mistrust that you have within yourself to effectively create your own reality. There is an indication of mistrust of the power of the energy that you exert here in this physical experience. Understand also that you came forth to predominantly learn and grow. Through this process, you also intended to become masters of the flow of energy, meaning from a thought to a thing. A thought you can consider would be something that is non-physical, that is then through the power of your energy converted into a physical manifestation that you can observe with any of your five senses. From this perspective then, if you perform an examination of this level with various limiting and false beliefs, you can literally begin to shapeshift the physical improvements in your body. I will give you an example. When Michelle turned 50, she had at that time a belief that she had formed by being told by other people that the conditions of menopause are an inherited trait, meaning that the daughter's experience of menopause would be conditioned upon the mother's experience of menopause. So if the mother began menopause at a certain age, so too then would the daughters. If the mother experienced hot flashes, then so too would the daughters, and so on and so forth. And the interesting part here is that her mother had a procedure that removed the possibility early on from her mother experiencing menopause at a natural state. And so then Michelle was left without a barometer, according to this belief, of when it would start for her and how it would operate. For she no longer had the barometer within the scope of that belief with which to proceed. And so when it came upon her physical form around the age of 50, it was a shock to her, for she had heard hot flashes being described, but to actually experience them became alternatively an entire other thing. And in her words, they were fierce. Through her exploration, though, of understanding that her mother cannot create the experiences in her reality, she began to, at a neuronal level, understand then that she had control over this particular health symptom. And she understood that she could continue with that symptom, or she could relieve herself of that experience. And since she did not enjoy it, she decided to relieve herself of the experience. She decided to alter her belief about it. Now, as I have said it before, there are many other beliefs that can show up in your physical form as symptoms or illnesses. But it is oftentimes too the very simple beliefs that can also manifest themselves as well. When she decided that she no longer was required to believe that a condition could be handed down from family member to family member, and when she understood that she could reaffirm that new belief a few times, then she could relieve her physical form of that symptom. And that is what happened. And then she began to play. She was also told that allergies are also a physical symptom that is genetically predisposed. And then she understood that just because her parent had allergies, she herself was not required to have any of those issues or symptoms in her own physical form. She began to accept that her body knew what to do without her for the logic that was presented to her, meaning she understood that she did not tell her heart how many times to beat during the course of the day or night in order for it to do its job. She did not instruct her body as to the levels of blood circulation that were going to be beneficial to her physical form. It did it without her. She did not have to control directly, meaning direct by focus of her thoughts, her body to function every day as it has since she was born. And she could not refute the logic of that thought. As she is often a linear thinker, she understood then it was simply a decision. And so then she made the decision to believe that she did not have to have a physical experience here in this state or any other state that would require her to deal with the discomfort or inconveniences of having seasonal allergies. And then those went away. And then she realized that she loved dogs. She had always loved dogs, but had always believed that she couldn't have them because family members were allergic to them. And then she realized she could relieve herself of that belief as well, and that her body would be able to interact accordingly and comfortably and in a manner that would satisfy and please her with animals. She has not tested this, but she will not be allergic to animals anymore. And so understand then that one of the most important steps in altering your physical form then comes from your choice. It is one of her favorite things to contemplate when she is alone and attempting to reorganize a belief that will impact her reality. She understands that her issue, although fear does present its own energy regarding its impediment towards manifesting in the terms that you know it, she understands actually that the issue is choice. To believe another belief or not, that is the question, pun intended. And so this is the framework with which you can approach any alterations that can impact your health and well-being. If you believe you are vulnerable to viruses and to colds and to other illnesses, then you will be. If you decide, and it is a decision, to believe that your body is not vulnerable, that within the framework of its natural state of well-being, it is perfectly well able to appropriately handle an interaction with a virus or other germs that it encounters. Indeed, this is part of you being in physical form. This is one of the aspects that you can learn to more effectively through the focus of your thought and the application of your will alter in your experience, not only your health, but of course anything else that you desire to change. Another example is if you desire, let us say, to be able to have the ability to heal conditions within your own body, and the path then reveals itself to you that will allow you, should you decide to follow that path, frightens you, and you decide not to follow that path, you then begin to see from a mechanical level how the energy of fear can be an impediment. And so there are several different ways to approach the understanding of how to alter the physical symptoms and illnesses that have arisen in your physical form. You may create a set of experiences, which you came here to have, by the way. You may create a series of experiences that will ultimately lead you to that ability. Your concern and fear of that path then would not aid you in becoming able to heal your own physical form. If you wanted to heal your body, your consciousness, your, as you call, inner self, of course, houses the solutions that would enable you to do so. And it will present those opportunities to you in various different ways.